Hello, both sides of the conversation family. We welcome you to this virtual space crafted especially for you. My name is Jada Curry, and I'm both sides of the conversation's marketing director and graphics design specialist. I want to take some time to ground us all as a community into this space we're about to open up in, so let's go through our community standards. Both sides of the conversation is providing a safe and honest space for open conversation, so we ask that you all be respectful of that. We also ask that you be respectful of each panelist, host, and participant. We do encourage healthy debates and conversations. Don't personalize anything with anyone. This includes name-calling, bullying, trolling, or shade. This will not be allowed or tolerated. Your perspective is yours. It is not a prescription. You do not have to agree, but show respect. These community standards apply to all of our live shows and any virtual spaces that we hold on social media, including YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We want to make sure that we're caring for each other as a community. This is our priority in all of our endeavors as both sides of the conversation. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's show and continue to stay in touch with us via YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or all of them. All right, thank you for listening and see you soon.
Welcome, everybody, to Both Sides of the Conversation. I'm John Henry, Executive Director. Today is Tuesday, so you know what that means. We have another segment of our Hidden Gems where we highlight people in the community that are doing great things for the community. We also highlight our Black and brown businesses, but tonight we have some special Hidden Gems to come in here and talk about something that I'm so passionate about, mental health and wellness. So it should be a phenomenal conversation from these gems tonight, so looking forward to doing that. Before we get started, just want to say a couple of things to community. One, school is back in session for some of our youth. I was driving through community today. There are still people driving above the speed limit of 25 miles per hour, and some of our schools is 15 miles per hour. So I just want to reiterate to the community, when you're driving through our communities, through our neighborhoods and around our school, our children are back in school. So please be aware of the speed limit as you are driving through our community, especially around our schools, to protect our young people. And then with that being said, we also got final announcements today from the state. There's a couple of counties in California that's already being put on emergency drought notice. And again, solidarity is the whole California. We know that there was a shortage of rainfall this year. Please, everybody, be mindful of how long we're taking showers, gardening, watering, because again, we are going to be affected this summer by the drought with the lack of snowpack and the lack of rain in our community. So we have to work together. I know there's been 2 counties in the East Bay who's already been put on the notice. But again, we have to work together as Californians to make sure that we conserve water, check our grass timers and the amount of baths and things that we're taking and washing cars. Let's just be mindful to save water. We don't want to have water rationing blackouts like we've been facing with the PG&E and electrical blackouts. So just wanted to throw that out there. And then just wanted to thank community for just coming together and just continue to do the things that we need to do to impact our community. Just want to keep community aware that, people are dealing with a lot of things in our community. Continue to pray for them. This mental health conversation is very important. You guys know this Sunday we'll be having a mental health conversation this Sunday for our Sunday conversation. It's very important that we be mindful and check out for our loved ones. There's a lot of people being affected by this mental health. And we're just coming out of this pandemic. A lot of changes are happening, but we just want to be making sure that we look out for community in that sense. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into tonight's Hidden Gem show. I'm going to pull up Miss Tashelle, and she's going to start introducing our guests, and then we're going to kick this thing off. Unmute yourself.
Thank you. I'll get a little nervous around these ladies because they are the heartbeat of schools. Fenicia Jacks. She was born and raised in San Francisco, California. She has an associate degree from San Francisco City College and a BS in health education from the San Francisco State University, and has recently bestowed a master's degree in social work from San Jose State University. In the future, she would like to obtain her license as a clinical social worker and provide mental health services to Black, Indigenous, people of color, with a focus on youth and families. She is a community conscious, active, orientated professional and is committed to serving Black communities throughout the Bay Area through advocacy and education. She currently works for the San Francisco Unified School District as a central community health outreach worker, supporting the high school wellness centers. For the past 6 years, Fenicia has served as the president of the San Francisco chapter of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Tashelle, and thank you, John, for having me be a part of this conversation. I appreciate the introduction. As Tashelle said, my name is Fenicia Jacks. I am a San Francisco native, born and raised here in San Francisco. I'm actually a second-generation San Franciscan, and I'm also an alumni of SFUSD. Currently, what I do for the district is I am the Central Community Health Outreach Worker. I work under the Student Family Community Supports Department in the School Health Programs office. And as a Central Community Health Outreach Worker, I support all of the high school wellness programs. All of our high schools here in San Francisco have wellness centers to provide mental and physical health services to students while they're on campus. Our wellness centers have been around over 20 years. It really started out of a youth vote of young people who came together and said that we really want these services at school and somewhere where they were easily accessed. So at our schools, we have wellness coordinators who are social workers. We also have community health outreach workers, school district nurses, and our RAMS therapists who provide mental health and physical health services to students, and also group services along with individual services. As Trishelle said, I am a social worker, and really what part of my goal in supporting students and families in SFUSD and in San Francisco as a whole, as is over the summer with a group of other amazing Black school social workers, we created a working group called BEST. It stands for Black Educators and Students Thriving. And really what our goal is to come together to really figure out how through the pandemic and beyond, we could really support Black students and families. One of the things that we have noticed as a collection is that many of our Black students do not have a problem coming to ask for help. They don't have a problem saying that they need support. However, many of them have expressed that they would like that support to come from folks who look like them, from folks who come from the communities they come from folks who have the same skin tones and backgrounds that they come from and can truly understand the things that they're dealing with in their communities and at school. And so one of the things that we are advocating for as a collection is to have a Black social worker on a central level, really advocating and finding resources specifically for Black students and families around mental health and social emotional learning. One of the things that we've been able to accomplish as a collection, as BEST, is we've been able to start a group. We have adopted the curriculum from Tyson Amir. He has a curriculum called Black Boy Poems, which we're really using Black culture and Black literature, Black poems that are all written by Tyson, who is an amazing poet and writer, how we could use the things that our students are already interested in, like music, like the cultures in which they come from, to really inspire them and to have honest conversations about the feelings that they're having, about how they can express themselves in positive ways, and how that expression can be used as a source of healing. We've started 5 groups this semester, and we hope to expand to have a group at every high school come the fall. We also are hoping to be able to expand these groups to middle schools and eventually elementary schools as well. And so really, I think if I could share anything, is that as a mother and as a Black woman who has grown up in this city, I do think that many of our students And many of our young people, regardless if they're in school or regardless if they go to school in SFUSD, many of them have expressed that just a real deep need for wanting to get support, once again, from people who look like them. So if I were to be asked by anyone, what is it that our young people need? We need more Black providers. We need more Black folks who are in the mental health realm to be able to provide these services. We need more community-based organizations to hire more Black providers to be able to provide these services to our young people. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this panel today. Some of the two other panelists I work very closely with, and so they're amazing as well. So I really appreciate this opportunity to share what Best has been doing and, what I can do as a Black woman in this work to be able to support Black students and families moving forward. And so I appreciate you both for this opportunity.
Man, phenomenal, phenomenal. I'm glad you talked about this. This is a very passionate conversation for me. We had our young people on last week, and one of our young people talked about some of the things that he dealt with depression and isolating himself and things of that nature. We're going to be putting some information across the screen for people to reach out for help and support. But you hit on something that I want to kind of tap in, because I had a couple of community conversations with some of our community leadership. And I know in these hubs throughout San Francisco, there are wellness centers, but we're trying to find out what is the issue. So since you have a little background, you might not have the answer, and that's fine. But I want to ask a couple of questions, because I've heard a couple of problems that I'm trying to figure out, because I get a lot of emails from families, people in the community. There seems to be a lack of mental health services for the community, or the services are not getting to the community. So we're trying to find out why is that. Now, I talked to other community organizations, and I'm hearing that there are wellness centers throughout the SF Hope sites, throughout some of these communities in the city in different districts. But I heard one of the key problems, and I heard you talk about culturally appropriate people, and then having the capacity to build. I keep hearing the capacity issue. And I was also learning that the staff right now, the social workers and the therapists that they have, are like rotating through these sites. So I thought that these wellness centers were being, plugged in with people for that community, but I'm finding out now that they're like, monitoring all of the sites. Maybe it's 5 people that's taking over all of the sites. So in your opinion, how do we fix that? Or how do we advocate as a community for that? Because I agree with you. I think mental health should be the first thing we have in our school. I'll say it again. I think the mental health in this country is just as bad as the pandemic that we're facing, and there needs to be more resources and more opportunities for people that look like us to come in the community, because all we hear is there's mental health issues. But there seems to be a gap in how do we get the services into our community. And I think in the pandemic, when it came to the nurses in school, there was a lot of bills signed by governors from different states, a lot of our elected officials. They made opportunities for colleges to take people who made, if the standard was here, they would let them get in and things of that nature. And I'm trying to find out from the psychologists to the clinicians, with our youth going through the college process, it seems to be one of the most sought off professions in the Black and brown community, but we still have this mental health issue. So I'm trying to find out what is it. I heard a lot about burnout. I know that's part of it, and I know the pay is always an issue. But how do we speed up this process from your perspective to get these people that we need and build capacity in our community wellness centers?
Yeah, from a couple of perspectives, as far as San Francisco Unified School District, I think that, there's no perfect system, right? And so I'm not going to sit here and say that SFUSD, we got it all figured out, because that's not the truth. However, I think when I look at other school districts in the state of California, SFUSD is a leading force in having, these services within our schools. Not only do all of our high schools have these wellness centers where the social worker is there full time, or the wellness coordinator, all of our middle schools and elementary schools should have social workers at these schools, and a full-time or part-time nurse. And so it looks very different at every school, right, depending on the population. So I will say that, and I will encourage any family that is listening to this to please reach out to your school social worker, tap into the resources that we can provide, because we connect to community-based organizations, and we try to connect young people and families to the community-based organizations that are in the communities in which they come from. I think that's one of the main things that I love about my job, is that I find these community-based organizations to be able to connect them to students and families. One of the things that we see, though, that we see happening all over San Francisco is that gentrification is affecting our most marginalized communities, which usually affects our community-based organizations in said communities. And so we are seeing a lot of our community-based organizations that can provide these services. They don't have enough staff because they're not receiving enough funding, or their staff itself is being pushed out of San Francisco. And so we're losing a lot of community members who are invested in this work in this type of way. And so I think that is a big barrier to Black folks in particular, and maybe our Latinx population, is because we are losing those populations drastically out of San Francisco so quickly. I think as a community, one thing that we definitely need to advocate for is more resources, financial resources for these providers. Because one of the things you touched on, John, is that, you know, just my experience of being a social worker, many of my friends who are Black and social workers or Black and in the mental health field can't afford to work for SFUSD. They can't afford to work for community-based organizations. We don't come into this. We usually come into this with $50,000 worth of student loans, and, or, you know, as many of us who are professionals in our community, we bringing up our whole community with us. We bringing up all our family with us. We may be the only ones who've had the opportunity to have these professional careers and get higher education. So you're bringing everybody with you to the table. So you don't necessarily have the ability to do community work. You can't work in your community when you can find a hospital or an agency or a system that is going to pay you $100,000 a year or more to do something that may not be fulfilling to your soul or to your community in that way. But so I feel like that's why I lose a lot of my Black social work friends and my Black mental health providers, is to systems who can pay more and can provide them the lifestyle that they deserve to have, as, you know, they've worked so hard for. But I definitely think that when we're talking about reparations for the Black community and talking about reparations for other communities who have been marginalized, part of what we have to advocate for is these services not only to be brought into our community, but to be readily accessible. It shouldn't be that somebody has to go somewhere super far to talk to someone who doesn't even look like them. I should be able to go to get mental health services as easily as I'm able to go to the corner store, as easy as I'm able to walk to Muni, as easily as I'm able to do a lot of things that we have in our communities that we don't necessarily completely need. So just like we have a corner store in every corner, we need a mental health clinic. We need clinics. We need fresh fruit. We need all of these things and we need safety, because part of mental health is getting access to physical health, you know, being able to walk, being able to go outside, being able to just name that you have a feeling. What do you do with that emotion? Because for a lot of us, we know we feel a certain type of way, right? We know I'm mad, I know I'm angry, but what do I do with that anger? What do I do with those emotions? And what I've learned in this work is that many of our young people don't know what to do with their emotions. They don't even know some of the names for the emotions that they have. So that would be one of the first things, is how can we do public promotion of that feelings are okay? It's okay to feel these things. It's okay to have a bad day, but here's some positive ways to move past it, because I don't think many of us know positive ways. We know a lot of negative ways to move past our feelings, but we don't know positive ways to do that.
Wow, phenomenal. You must have been in my head, because I was just going to mention that before we close out today. I know the committee for the Black reparations here in San Francisco, the committees are starting to kind of get filled up. Some of the seats are being filled. And that's one of the questions I have. And I'm going to watch it closely because I think there's a fundamental issue that we need to really hone in on. And I think you hit a great topic. Because that's a conversation we're going to be having coming up in the future, because we know that our Black and brown communities are being impacted, especially our young people, the worst with the violence and the support service that they need. And I think it is time that we have a real conversation about this financial equity gap. And it's sad because in our communities, when we're looking for clinicians, we're looking for social workers, we're looking for mentors, or whatever the work is in our community where we know we need it the most, there's a big pay gap. And we are losing people to different counties, to different occupations because of that pay gap. And again, the same services that we provide for our community, these same providers in different communities are getting the financial pay and getting the resources to take care of their young people and people in that community. And I think that's a real conversation that we have to keep pushing forward because a lot of times our service providers are backing out. It's like, hey, we can't work for $25 an hour in San Francisco, so we really have to be intentional with that. But I'm definitely going to be watching this reparation committee, and not only just here in San Francisco, across this country, because I think there's some fundamental changes when we're talking about reparations that I want to make sure that people are honing in, especially because of these communities that we live in are being gentrified and we're being pushed out of our communities. We need to start looking at reparations more than just a financial package, but an overall package, how it's going to impact the Black and brown community. And I think that starts with payroll tax breaks, business tax break, home ownership tax breaks, like exempt from it, like really make an impact to kind of help close this wealth gap so that we can be able to afford and work in our communities and provide the services that we need. So that was phenomenal that you brought that up, but I'm definitely going to be watching in on that. And, the last thing you talked about, how do we make this mental wellness cool? And that's one thing that I'm all about. We have to get more people talking about it. We have to have more young people who look like us talking about it. We have to get some of our influencers and some of our officials and some of our entertainers to really make mental health talked about and cool and start removing the stigma, because I think we need to have it all the time, especially in our community, because it's so many areas of it. But one of the biggest complaints that I'm getting in San Francisco is, after these homicides are happening, there's no grief counselors. Our young people are experiencing grief from watching their friends being killed, families are being affected, and these services are not coming to the community. And it's really impacting the community. We have to look at what that service looks like. I know we have this crisis response team. I'm doing some follow-up to kind of check it out and see what's going on. I think it's a phenomenal thing. But again, it's dealing with the intermediate right now emergency. But we have problems in our community that we need to address long term, and they need care 7 days a week, or how many ever days a week that they can get it. But there are some medical barriers that I heard too that we need to look into. And we're talking about reparations, these medical care package. I also think the employers need to do a better job as well, providing mental health services for the employees. And that's a conversation nationwide we need to have. Is it time to hold these corporations a little bit accountable for some of the stuff that they bring when they come into communities? Because and everyone knows we give these corporations large tax breaks when they come into our cities. We help them out and benefit them in ways, and I think it's time that we kind of leverage them in a way that's really going to impact the community. And I think it's time that we had that conversation. Part of your 8-hour day, we might need to send staff to get mental health services, because we have to start pumping this out in our community different ways to get people involved in a way that is safe, and people that are doing it that they see. So sometimes it could be the workplace. For some of our people, being able to do it at work, they might be more comfortable than instead of doing it in the community. But we have to find all these ways that we can input this information to the community.
Definitely. We need multiple access points. Literally is what you're saying. We just need multiple access points. And the last point that I'll leave us with is one thing that we try to do with our wellness centers is making young people consumers of their own health. We learn a lot of things about a lot of different things, but we don't learn how to take care of ourselves in that capacity. And one of the things you touched on was the stigma of asking for help. And I think one of the things, if anything, that I do within my role is it's really showing young people that the strongest person you can be is to always ask for help. And it's never a weak thing to ask someone and to say, I'm not at my best today, but I could use support, And so I think that's one of the things we have to continue to make sure that not only our young people know that, but, everyone in our community understands that, mental health does not make you weak when you have, moments where you're not as strong in that area, just like you would bulk up your body or eat better or lose weight or do any of these things to take better care of yourself. We have to be able to have these same conversations when it comes to our mental health as well.
Yeah, phenomenal, phenomenal. And I think that's what this conversation is Sunday. We'll kind of hone in on that. I mean, because it's an education process. We have to educate the community, and then we have to also educate the community on the awareness side. You know, when we see our young people isolating themselves or things going on in the community, being able to pick up on those signs. So I'm hoping we pull a little bit out of that, out of the conversation. But definitely phenomenal, phenomenal work you're doing. I mean, I just want to take my hat off to you. I wish I could have connected with you last month because I know it was Social Worker Month. And you know, I got yelled at because we was highlighting Women History Month, and somebody called me and said it is Social Worker Month as well. And it was last minute, and I couldn't reach out and grab a couple of social workers. But I'm glad you're here. Respect the work that you are doing. Proud to have you in the community as a pillar and doing the work for our community is needed. And anything that we could do here at both sides of the conversation, we definitely will help you out. As far as if it's events, digital flyers, or things like that to get out to community programs, please let us know. So that we can inform the community how to reach out and get the support that's needed. You were a hidden gem tonight. You're a not so hidden now. I know a lot of people know you, but now after tonight, you're not a hidden gem. You're one of the pillars of the community, and we're happy to have you here. And thank you for coming on. And we'll definitely be reaching out to you because we're going to have these conversations of mental health all throughout the year, because this conversation will not go away until our community get the services and the benefits that they need. So thank you very much for everything that you're doing for the
Thank
community.
you. I appreciate you both. Have a beautiful evening. I'll be around.
Unmute yourself.
It's how you know you're tired. Destinee Lanns. Destinee attended and graduated from the San Francisco State University, top of her class, obtaining both a bachelor's and master's degree in biology. She's currently the community health outreach worker at Lowell High School. The students at Lowell love Destinee. They admire the ground she walks on because she is a role model for Black boys and girls in science. One of the students at 100% College Prep is a straight A student, thanks to Destinee. Destinee, welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Once again, my name is Destinee Lanns, and I am the community health outreach worker at Lowell High School. I am not an SF native, but from going to San Francisco State and getting to know phenomenal people who are natives from San Francisco, they have shared so much of their wisdom and their experiences with me to help educate me so I could learn more about the community that I'm living in, the community that I'm going to school at. And so it has been a great experience. I just want to start off with that. So I am the Chow in wellness at Lowell. And so what exactly does that look like? So I like to describe to people that wellness is like a miniature clinic within a high school. And it has registered nurses, licensed social workers, licensed therapists, and people like me. Maybe I'm not licensed in any of those things, but I am highly educated and I have a strong backing as well. And so we all come together to support our students, and we have a mental health focus. For me, I think overall wellness is important, and a great way to achieve that is through our mental health, and to just take time to evaluate ourselves and to evaluate the situations that are going on around us, whether if it's at school, at home, wherever it's happening, and to see how that makes us feel and how that affects us so that we can take time to address those things and continue to move on. Because suppressing isn't helpful for us as we continue to move on through this world and our youth become those great humans that they already are, but they're going to become even greater. So I like to take time and to remind our students that they should advocate for themselves. I think self-advocacy is very important. They should have a student voice and be able to express what is happening for them in that moment and to share that to people who they trust. In the Wellness Center, one thing that I do, because I've noticed that sometimes our students do struggle with wanting to come in, even though there's awesome people in there, due to the stigmas around mental health. I have this area that I call like Destinee's Corner, And I try to draw and write up a lot of different motivational quotes or scenarios for our students. And I've noticed that through that is a way to bring in some of our students because they find it very interesting, even if it's to joke around at my drawing that is not that cute. And so that gives us a gateway to open up conversation so that we can further get to know each other, so that we can dive deeper into the things that are actually important, that are valuable to them. And so, yes, thank you for having me today.
Wow, thank you very much for the work you're doing. I know you said you was at Lowell, so I know there's been a real publicized event that has taken place at Lowell. How are young people doing mentally? Because I know a lot of young people were stressed about the situation. How are young people doing? Where's their mental state at now that we're coming out of this pandemic? Are they doing fine? Have you had to do any outreach, or things are just being, moving on?
I think our young people are awesome. They're phenomenal. They're strong. They're thriving. But I will say that there are struggles, especially if you're not being seen and you feel like you're not being seen, and that causes a toll on our mental health. So that is something that we're still working on, to address those issues, to make sure that they can be their best selves, right? Because we want them to be their best selves so that they can put forth their best work. This pandemic, I don't think has made anything better for our young people. I feel like some are striving and they are thriving and it's working for them, but online learning is not for everyone. And so getting back into schools and putting our students who can use it back into the classroom to further promote their education, I think will be very helpful for some of them, especially the community aspect. Being remote has separated a lot of people, and that distance can cause strain on us. Distance can allow us to remember things that maybe we have suppressed. Distance just gives us a lot of time to reflect, and sometimes the things that come up are not always the best thing. And I've noticed and I've been told that some of our young people are struggling with that, when it comes to them navigating that in this time.
Wow, yeah, phenomenal stuff. I'm glad that you are there to support our young people. I know coming out of this pandemic, there's going to be a lot of anxiety, coming
Yes.
back into the school district. So I'm sure you're going to be pretty heavy with emotions and things happening with our young people. Just glad to have you there to work with them. And speaking of emotions, my brother James Harrison in Oakland, he's a licensed clinician. He has these flashcards, emotional flashcards, 30 expressions and prompts to explore. I'm gonna put that information out here. I think these flashcards, and I have some other ones that I'm going to be working with some of our young people. I think these open up conversations to start getting our young people comfortable with talking about how they feeling and things of that nature. So just want to say thank you for the work you're doing. Like I said before, if there's anything we could do to help support you over at Lowell, or if you have any events that you want to educate community or resources, please get it out to us. We'll flash on all of our social media handles, and make sure that it get out to the community. And we'll make sure that the young people, we have a lot in our community that's going to Lowell, that they make sure they connect with you and have some conversations, and you'll be able to there to support them. So, thank you for being our hidden gem tonight. Now you're no longer hidden. I know a lot of people know you, but coming on here now, people in the community will definitely know who you are and how to reach out to you. And thank you for the service that you're doing for our young people over there at Lowell.
Yes, thank you. And yes, you are correct. Because of this new enrollment system at Lowell, there will be an increase in our Black students who will be there. So that is exciting because we need more of our students there because, we're brilliant. We're just we're great. So we need more of us there. And the I'm losing my words from the excitement. As our community grows, our voices will become even stronger. And as people take time to stop and listen to our young people, because I think that's a very important thing, is to stop and listen to what they're actually saying to us, we can make the appropriate moves to support them in the way that they need so that they can be the best them. So
Yes,
thank you.
and when Siobhan comes, you run into Siobhan, give her a big hug, and she's been running and gunning, and
Yes,
all the young BSU students over there, they've been fighting hard, and they're gonna need some love and support.
yes, definitely. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We're gonna go ahead and bring up our next hidden gem.
All right, awesome. So this next hidden gem is a great friend of mine. They're all my friends, by the way, but Amber and I, we have a different bond. Amber started her journey with SFUSD at Willie Brown Jr. College Preparatory Academy in 2007 as a social worker intern. She learned all she could about the Bayview Hunters Point community and families, as well as learning about the history of the area. I certify she knows. In 2008, Amber became the school social worker at Willie L. Brown College Preparatory Academy and coordinated support services to the students and families. Amber is the school social worker of the only comprehensive middle school wellness center in San Francisco Unified School District. She put her heart and soul into the Bayview community. She provides support in the Wellness Center, including individual student check-ins, individual therapy, and facilitates social and skill building groups. Her focus was working with students and teachers with social emotional curriculum, providing mental health support to the students, identifying barriers to academically and social success. Amber is the best social worker I have ever worked with in San Francisco Unified School District. Thank you, Amber, for joining us.
Oh my God, what an honor. Thank you, Tishelle. That is so sweet of you. I am honored to be here. And how do I follow Fenicia and Destinee? They're both amazing and they said so many great things. I'll speak shortly because I think they covered so much. So I work at Willie Brown Middle School. It was a school that was closed for a little while, and then it reopened with the first middle school comprehension wellness center. So what that meant is that we had a full-time social worker, a full-time nurse, a full-time community health outreach worker, a CHOW, and then we had partnerships with Department of Public Health, and they provided us with a nurse as well. And so the idea was that we were going to have mental health services, but we also were going to provide reproductive health services and other health services right there on site for our students. And we are working with 6th through 8th graders, so I wanted to bring that up too. So when Willie Brown opened, it's a beautiful campus, beautiful wellness center. We had all the resources within the wellness center. We had these space, we had rooms, but what we didn't have was the community. We didn't, it was a new school, so we had to really build the relationships with the community, with our families again, with our CBOs that we have, to build relationships and collaborate with. So we could have this beautiful building, but without these relationships, it really doesn't mean much. So within the past, 5 or 6 years, that is what I focus on, and what our wellness center really strives to do is build those relationships so that we can provide the services, because we know people don't go for services if they don't trust the people that they're working with. And I think this is a big point that both Destinee and Fenicia brought up earlier. So we want these services easily accessible to our youth. It's really, they're at the school for 8 hours a day. So having them on site makes it easier for them. They could do it sometimes during their classes if that's needed, or even after school. So that's a little bit about the wellness center of how, where we're at Willie Brown. And so, I've been thinking a lot about what you've said, and I think you guys touched on many of the things that we want to talk about. It's we want people to learn about what is mental health, and also we know there's so much stigma behind mental health services and mental health in itself. And what is so important is to look at, in order to be our best selves for ourselves, for our family, for our friends, for our community, we need to be taking care of ourselves. And it's one thing that is really hard for us, especially when we're younger, is really identifying those feelings and also being able to express them in ways that are safe or in healthy ways. So really one of the big things that we want to work on and in the community right now and through the work through you all is how to take away that stigma that many people feel. So that's one thing that we want to look at. And then another thing is what we want to build is toolboxes, right? So we can have, in our toolbox, we want to have a bunch of different resources for if we're feeling sad or angry or we have a lot of anxiety, which is stuff we are all feeling right now, especially during this pandemic. Those are things we're feeling, constantly. And so we want to have tools in our toolbox. So how to make us feel better during those times. And that's really something that the wellness centers and our social workers and our community-based organizations can help support with. So one thing more about Willie Brown, and I hear this a lot, is we really want providers who look like our students. So that's one thing we really strive for in building relationships at Willie Brown. So looking at therapists who look like the students. We want therapists who speak the language of our students. So please come to me, please email me if you're connected and you want to provide those services at our site. We would really appreciate that. I wanted to just touch upon about a couple things. When the pandemic, first started, there was all of us were like, it was totally new to all of us. And one of the big important things that we did at the beginning was check in with all of our families and our students. And what we found were a lot of families were stressed. They're feeling, they're not working. And one of the things they really needed was food. So I started connecting with my resource, my community, and spoke to Tashelle, who works with YCD, and they were able to provide almost all of our families at Willie Brown gift cards so that they could buy food. And so that was one thing that they didn't have to worry about. And then one thing that's also been really important is on the ongoing check-ins, and not just, this is something for all of us. We need to check in with each other always. We can't just check in here and there, but we need to keep our communication going to make sure, see how people are doing. So those were just a couple things.
Wow, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, I think that's very important. But there's so many issues that we could go down the list on and on. One of the questions that I wanted to ask, treatment. It seems that we're not doing the coping skills, the tools that you talked about. A lot of times when we go to our medical facilities or we're seeking mental health, it seems to be more drug driven. Is that the appropriate way? Because I know a lot of people that are, dealing with certain mental health issues and it's straight to pills. But it doesn't seem like there's a lot of that coping work and those tools in those toolbox that you're talking about. How do we get to those models? Because it seems like we're just pushing drugs and not enough of evaluations and self-coping skills and things of that nature.
Well, I think one thing that's beautiful about SFUSD is that we do have all these social workers out of all our schools, and that is something that you could, families and youth can reach out to the social workers and connected with the provider right on site. Jumping to maybe sometimes there are times that we might need some medication, but that's not where you want to go, And if there is medication, you also want to. That's one part of the tool, but what is the other part? What are all the other coping tools that we have? We need to talk through things. We need to figure out ways to express ourselves it means so much to kind of think about how we're feeling and why we're feeling that and why our brains work the way that they are. Are we fighting? Are we flighting? What's going on with us? So it's really important that it's not jumping to anything. We should never jump to putting all of our eggs in one basket. That doesn't work. So we want to be able to, talk to providers, and then also talking to our medical staff. But if you think about how many patients they see every day, every week, every year. And if it's at the school site, we really get to know our students and hopefully our families, so that we can really provide more, think about what are the best services for them at that time. Does that kind of
Yeah, that covers it. One other question I wanted to ask: how do you feel about community partners and being community schools? Do you think that's great for schools? And is that something that we can use? Is that a good model? From your perspective, what do you think about the community school?
Absolutely. I don't think we need to. What I was saying is like we want to build those relationships and working with our CBOs and community partners as part of that, building that relationship. And I mean, especially for me as a white woman in a community, I need to have my partners within the community so I can, who trust me and who could, give me a good word when I'm working with different families and different CBOs. So yes, we want to work, or I want to work and build as many relationships with our communities, strong people in our community. If it's a CBO, if it's our, just mentors in our communities, if it's our church, our pastors and our reverends in our community, it's whoever we're feeling most connected to and our young people and our families look up to.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And last question before we go, because I know we have one more guest. Because I keep hearing about having culturally appropriate people. You responded in the way you responded by being a white woman, but how much of that gap really affects the teaching, the curriculum? Because I'm all for like, hey, if there's a method and a model that works, how much does that just play into the mental aspect, and or how much actually comes into the outcome? Do you see that much when you're working to the kids as at Willie Brown? I'm sure it's predominantly African American, Latin kids. Do they open up to you, or is it a big resistance?
I think this is where it goes back to it's all about building the relationship, right? If I cannot provide supports or services without having a relationship with the students. And, Tashelle used to be at Willie Brown, and she brought in this amazing curriculum, very culturally relevant. She had started all these programs, and she had groups with our young people. And that was one way, is even connecting and building that relationship with Tashelle and like having her talk with students and be like, oh, you can talk to Miss Amber about this or that. So it's all 100% about our work, or my work is all about relationships. I can't do anything without having that.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. It's always a question to me because I'm in these meetings and I hear people talking about it. And, part of me is, hey, if you have the education and you're equipped, can you adapt? Like you said, I think you hit it right on the head. It's about relationships and having compassion. The biggest thing in the community is when we have the resistance, we have to have the people who have the compassion and the humility to work with these people in our community because they are traumatized. They are dealing with a lot. And especially in the Black and brown community, there's a big trust gap, especially when people are from outside the community. And I think that relationship part, you hit it right on the head. And I just had to ask it because I hear it a lot. And I just wanted to see like how much, and realistic, how much is like all the kids just turning away or, that gap, because I hear people talk about it. But I think, it's good to hear you say that there is opportunities to build relationships, and it's all about how you go through the process.
And so,
Yeah, go ahead.
So Amber, I'm going to certify you are a partner in Bayview, and you do your job phenomenally. The students I had the privilege of teaching, they trusted you. They trusted you to where they come back to see you before they come see me at 100%. John, she works very heavily in the community. She could tell you 5 of the streets that she has been on. We did home visits. When we brought Spark to Willie Brown, and it was predominantly, the first generation students, Amber would gather them all. And they would get on a bus and go downtown and do all types of hands-on stuff. And those are the students who are really trusting Amber. You rode the bus with them. She's been on every field trip. We had students that needed EpiPens and asthma pumps. Like, that's why I said she is a true person who has studied the culture and community to where YCD doesn't have a problem with entrusting you with thousands of dollars of food cards for families because they knew that you have a genuine heart and those cards went to good use, and we got the signatures to prove it. So being from a well-competent wellness center based off the Black Panthers 10-point plan, you've held that building and the services provided with Anthony coming in with the boys group. That really helped our gentlemen. John's worked with some of those boys, or the girls groups that we had, jump ropes. When we started Willie Brown, we didn't even have balls or ropes or anything. I asked Amber for putty. Putty is $53 a can. I didn't know. She gave me putty every year for every student. And just for you being able to do that using your budget for a Black ethnic studies humanities teacher, it helped me teach better because after lunch, whew, Lord, that sugar rush. So you have a community partner in 100%, YCD, Black to the Future, both sides of the conversation, even the sun that shines in Bayview. So when you go back into your wellness center, just know we got your back.
Thank you. I think one thing, I just want to say one last thing, and I do want like young people to hear that. If they don't feel comfortable going to someone like myself, find that person in the school, find that person in the community, find the person who you can talk to, who you can trust, and you can say, I need help with this, or I'm really struggling with this. They're going to be the ones who can help you, in the right direction or support you in that way. So really, find the people that you feel are your people. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being.
I miss the fruit and the apples and the spring water. Like, she didn't even highlight all the stuff she truly does for mental health. Kids would go to the wellness center just to get the spring water so they can calm down. So that cucumber water, the apples, everything, share that with all the schools so they can be comprehensive as well, because we are in this together.
Well, I'm going to say thank you for being courageous, and I'm not going to use phenomenal because I've been getting beat up for saying phenomenal on this platform. I'm going to say you're amazing, and, thanks for having the courage, because there are a lot of providers that are afraid to go into our communities, and that's a conversation we're going to have this Sunday. How do we support them, whether it's with security, whatever they need, because we need the services in our community, and we're going to continue to fight together to find out how we make sure that the work you all do, you're safe, and the services get to the community. So thanks again for the work you're doing. Looking forward to meeting you. There's a lot of young people up there that I'm doing stuff with, and I'll be definitely connecting with you when I come up there.
Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good one. All right. We have our last hidden gem tonight. This brother here, he's been waiting patiently. Please, I know we've been having Wi-Fi issues in our community. Hopefully y'all get to hear this brother, powerful brother, doing a lot of stuff for the community. He had a phenomenal testimony. He will be joining us this Sunday to talk about some of the things that he's dealt with when it comes to this mental health. Working with Jack, Jack called me and said, man, you got to get this brother on, man. He's deep. The community needs to hear him, John Henry. So I said I had to reach out to him last minute. I was able to get a hold of him. We've been trying to play phone tag a little bit, but we got him here tonight. Hopefully his Wi-Fi hold up. I know he's having some problems earlier. Phenomenal brother. Coming back to do some things in our community. And I think this is huge because you guys know me at both sides of the conversation. I'm huge on this supporting Kings movement and making sure that our brothers who've been in the community, even went through the trials and tribulations, come back and give back to our young people and make sure they have the tools that's equipped to get back into the community. So I'm going to go ahead and let Tashelle go ahead and introduce this brother, and then I'm going to pull him up and let him go on and introduce himself to the community.
Thank you. Duwane Swamms is the owner of his own mental health nonprofit called The Gym. It focuses on mental health, self-wellness, and family support service foundation. Duwane feels it is his duty and his calling to teach people about mental health and the resources with providing assistance for people in his community. Duwane, welcome to both sides of the conversation.
Thank you very much. How y'all doing today?
Good to see you, brother.
What's up, John? How you doing, man? It's a pleasure to meet you. It's a pleasure to hear you, man.
I know,
you.
Man.
I had to switch my laptop. You know what I'm saying? The other laptop was tripping, man, so I had to switch my laptop.
That's all good. I'm just glad you're here, man. The community need to hear your story, man. We already been through everybody, so you got the floor, man. Take your time. I'll be here to support you, and we'll have a question at the end. But the community needs to hear your story. Very powerful, and with the work you're doing and some of the stuff you're planning to do here in the future, I want to make sure community here so that we wrap our arms around you and support you on your endeavors and what you're doing to come back and help impact our community.
For sure. Well, my name is Duwane Swamms. I'm starting my nonprofit organization called The Gym for Mental Health and Self-Wellness Family Support Service Foundation. based on that, I also deal with mental health issues myself. So, and also I just lost a child to mental health, which was depression, and I just buried my son based on that. So this is something that's in the neighborhood in the Black community that goes unseen, or people like me that they don't get to see, to think that this is an important issue that we need to deal with. So I don't want no other family members or other families have to go through this because we think mental issues is a taboo. It's not cool to say I got a problem with I got everything, and I'm here to tell them that it's not true. I missed the signs with my own child when I should have had him with me, and I missed the signs when he was crying out. So I don't want nobody else to go through that. So to be aware, to focus on these things and understand that it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to deal with it. It's okay to be cool to say that you got these issues when you don't. Also, I'm just not trying to create a foundation. I'm trying to create a hub. So you can have people can come there to get the support they need as a builder. I'm trying to get one of these builders in San Francisco and have a mental health service hub for the people in the community to come here and get help, and not just about a foundation. You know what I'm saying? But the foundation is based on, because me as who I am, where I came from, I'm a San Francisco native. I grew up in Hunters Point, baby, Hunters Point. And I look at all the mental health, I see the gentrification, and I know it's a lot of things going on with the violence and this, and the people losing their family members and all this type of stuff. But it's probably that we have inside that we scared to talk about, or scared to discuss with one another, because we don't get that help. We don't get that support. My mom died from a heart attack. My auntie had multiple sclerosis. And, the family members didn't support her to where she had to go to the hospital, and she ended up dying alone. So these are issues that need to be addressed to the community, that a little bit of love, a little bit of paying attention to your kids, a little bit of help, a little bit of crying out, and being there to support them goes a long way. So for me, this is a personal thing that's burning inside of me, that we need to address this with all the youth, and not just my community. It's just every community. I didn't sit down with, I done got on the phone with, I done made 7 phone calls with a lot of important people in situations from different neighborhoods in San Francisco who lost kids, who lost children, or been going through this, or they gained testimonies when they got up and opened up for the first time, because they was like, they thought I was preaching them when I was talking to them about this, because it is something that we need to address, and people are scared to open up because a lot of times they don't have that outlet to feel that way, or they feel like it's not nobody else going through the same thing they're going through. So me, like I say, I went to mental health. My mom passed through. I was very depressed. I didn't have no shame about it. I went and got a counselor. I went and talked to a counselor, and I still talk to one, just based on if that's going to give me a fresh breath and to make it through the next week. Then that's what I'm going to do. I don't care what nobody think, what nobody said, because at the end of the day, we all got things we hold inside. We all got things that we need to get out, and we all don't have the outlets to express that. I love all the panelists that were speaking on all the things. We don't have the support. We don't have the budgets. We don't have this. But yes, we need to create that narrative in San Francisco to let these kids feel safe. And then my foundation is not just based on that. It's based on, it will touch everything. The gun violence, the gang violence, all these different type of things, because what people don't understand too, a lot of people that's in these gangs, they're crying out too. They need help too. If you can sit up here and think that you could go kill somebody for somebody that you don't know what you want to do, then you have a mental problem that you don't even know that you have. Because if you don't even see that you're doing something that you don't know, it's creating, you have an issue that needs to be addressed. It's something inside of you that you need to get out and let out and let somebody else know. It's okay to get help. It's okay to say this. It's okay. It's cool. They need more people like me, like other people, like the other panel, to let them know it's okay, brother. Come. This is what you're going through. How can we find a solution? This is what you need help. It's okay. Because at the end of the day, we miss them signs when people be crying out, because people get tired of getting a phone call talking about, hey, man, I'm stressing. Oh, man, don't worry about that. God got you. Everything's going to be out. A person might got a gun or a knife in their hand. They tell you that. They push them away. You don't know what they're going to do. But next thing you're going to know, if they commit suicide and kill themselves, you're going to be saying, oh, man, they could have talked to me about everything. Well, he was trying to talk to you. You didn't want to listen. So it's like, you got to understand, you got to watch these signs, you got to watch these things. And these are things that I've been aware of, because I'm personally going through this, and I just buried my son for mental health. So at the end of the day, it is personal for me now that this needs to be addressed in our community. And it's a serious situation that's overlooked. I go from city to city, and I've seen these people on the freeway, and there's nowhere to get help. But we all got this money, this foundation, these money and all this, but you got these homeless people, you got all these people. Most of these people just got mental health problems. They ain't got nowhere to get help at, man. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, we need these outlets and hubs, but we got all these high tech companies. Let's get some of these buildings in here to get these people the help that they need. And all they need is a little bit of love and courage to let them know, to feel good the next day, to get up and strive the next day, to change their life. Because at the end of the day, it's easy to give up, but it's hard to help, man. So at the end of the day, it's like it takes a little bit to help to just to walk away and ignore it. Yeah, we all got problems. We understand that. We know that life brings problems. And then with this COVID's got people in the house. Y'all, people think, what about the people after the COVID's over? What y'all really think gonna happen? Y'all gonna let all these people come that been isolated in this house, it's gonna come back? The crime's gonna skyrocket. It's gonna be more violence because now you're gonna create more victims because people been isolated in the house for their people and they ain't getting no help to go through what they've been going through by sitting in the house for almost 2 years. That's like being in prison. So what you think they're gonna do when they get back on the street? Oh yeah, we open back up, everything's back to party. You think it's gonna be normal? No, it's not. You're gonna have a lot of people out here distressed, new, scared, and they just ain't gonna know what to do. So it's like these are things that we need to get on top of now, or these are the things that we need to do. And that's what I hope to accomplish, getting out there, getting back on this front line, talking about this, getting back in this community so people can see people like me that been in these streets, been born and raised in Hunters Point, been around gang violence for 30 years, plus was involved, an ex-gang member or whatever they want to call it. And if I could do it, anybody could do it. And if I got to make it look cool and I got to stand on somebody, then that's what you can do it too. Because I got a lot of testimony to tell you about all you brothers picking up these guns and doing all this type of stuff. Hey, when you get to prison, it's a whole different story, brother. Ain't no more guns. It ain't no more none of that. Y'all think it's a game out here. Y'all playing. This is not Grand Theft Auto. This is serious. They're just locking y'all up and y'all going up there and they don't care about y'all. And the mental health care in there is terrible. You're not getting nowhere. I done watched 7 people die in there, putting in a sick call, going on with a headache, start with this and end up dying and get wheeled out with their cell because they didn't get the medical treatment that they need. So this is where you want to go? Keep playing these games in these streets and all this, and it's cool to cry out. You don't have to jump in that car. You don't have to follow these people. Do what you want to do and still be that person. You got to live for yourself and be an individual, and it's hard to do that when you got a lot of people that don't understand. They got mental health issues. They're depressed. They have anxiety. They stress. They don't have their family. They losing grandmamas. They losing aunties. They losing fathers. They depressed. Ain't nobody helping them. So how you got to cope? Me, I've been through all that, but I'm a survivor. So I know how to deal with it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. You know what I'm saying? And it's possible, but we got to get more people out there to address this that look like us, come from where we come from, and get out there spreading them. So my job is I'm trying to network with all the people that's public figures in each one of these communities and come together. And this is what we got to do to change this. They already kicked us out of our neighborhood. They're already doing this. They coming back. They're doing this. Let's come together and show them that we need the help and we're willing to earn that help and work that help and change the community and not let them keep taking it from us because we don't care, because we really need help. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's deeper than just mental health, man. You know, when I gave my testimony on my son memorial, man, I had 8 people stand up, was like, man, you know what? I thought you was preaching. You was talking about me. They got up crying, talking about, man, I'm glad somebody, they was happy to see somebody like me get up there and say that. And I said it with open arms. I'm not ashamed. And I had so many testimony. It touched me like, man, I know. I see what I got to do. This is what we got to do. I see this vision. I see this. This is what they need because there's a lot of people going through this and everybody's scared to open up. So if you can't, like the young ladies, the young sister said earlier, we do need more people to open up that look like us. We do need more people that come from the background we come from that's going to see us doing as a public figure or doing this or doing that, knowing where they know you came from. Use your connection. If you is somebody in the street, use it in a positive way, because when they see you do that, it's going to make them know they can do it too. Because we glorify people's names in the street for doing negativity. Let's glorify for something doing something positive. And that's the best role model you good. I got a degree. I went to school. I did college and all that, but I got most of my information, my knowledge from the streets. So I know what my community going through, and I know that, and I know what they need too. I dropped off the front line, but now my passion is back, and this is something I really stand behind and really believe that's tearing up our community apart. And I don't blame these youngsters. It's not an OG to the youngsters to the OG. It's not a competition, man. What it is that, man, y'all got to be received. It's the information, the way you're giving it to them. You know what I'm saying? It's not about controlling. It's not about this. It's like, brother, this is what I want to do. What's your problem? You need help? Here's the way to do it. I don't argue. It's not competitive. It's not about this and you got to possess these opportunities. You can't keep telling these brothers to get off the streets. And when this man walking around with $5,000, it's probably you trying to tell him to go get a job. You think he going to quit doing what he going to do if you ain't got nothing to offer him better than that? Okay, you know what I'm going to do, brother? I'm going to wait, come back with these resources. Now I'm coming back to you like, you remember when I told you I had an opportunity for you to get off the street? I found you a job through a resource that's paying you $35 an hour. Just go do these classes. Now you're going to be making 2 times that money. Now you told me to come back, so I'm coming back to you. I ain't forgot about you, but I'm going to come back to you now. Now what you going to do? So then you can find out if they want the help or not the help, because you can't tell them youngsters to do nothing like that if you ain't got no opportunities for them. And that's what we try to do. We always want to, oh man, you need to do this. But if you ain't got nothing better for them to do, they going to keep doing the same things they used to. Because a lot of these people just feeding their families. And it's set up, designed for us like that. This is generations after generations cycles we trying to break. You know how they say post-traumatic stress for these army veterans? But what about post-traumatic stress slavery for disorder for the slaves that they had for 400 years when y'all didn't give us no mental health and y'all set all our ancestors and all our people free? You had them going back to the plantation because they didn't know what else to do. It's the same way with the prison system. You get out of jail, rehab don't start in prison. It starts on the streets. But if you ain't got the resources to do all that, they're going to be right back in there because some of these people is comfortable being in and they has been on the streets. So it doesn't start right there. It starts with this community, and we got to come together. And like I say, I'm on the front lines now. So at the end of the day, like I say, man, you can Fred Hampton me, you can Martin Luther King or Malcolm X me. But if my story get out there and I got to get on the front line to say the next brother, the next family, then God be, if that's God wishes for me as a black man to go back to my community and heal it, then to hurt it. So, you know what?
Yeah, that's just phenomenal. See, I had to have you come say this because it's 2 things. You hit on a lot of stuff. And but what I want to say is very important for community to see this, especially our young people that's watching. It is important. Your story is very important because the young people need to understand there is people that look like them who've been through things. Yeah. And when we go through things, we have to come back to the community. We have to let our young people know. I think that's why this worked for me, reentry. And you know what we do with Jack with our young people locked up. They have to see it. We are a culture of people. If we don't see you doing it, we don't believe it.
Yes.
And you hit on a lot of things. And I'm gonna start at the top of it.
I just my passion be running.
I love your passion. I love your passion and your energy because see, that's me. I get fired up, but I have to control myself because my daughter told me, Dad, if you keep going off like that, I'm gonna take you off the air because you can't have no stroke. My blood pressure get high. But I get passionate about these conversations, especially mental health. But I think you hit on something. See, the poverty pimps in our community, we have to call them out because there are some resources. Okay, I'm not saying that there's enough to cover all the issues, but there are resources coming to the community. We got to call out these poverty pimps who use our people to line their pockets and not provide the services that's needed to our community. So I know how you feel about that because we've had a conversation.
You see how you said that? When I said that I'm back on the front line?
Yeah.
That happened to me a long time ago when I sat down with Gavin, the governor, Gavin Newsom, in San Francisco about that. And I sat next to a lot of brothers that had programs and was getting these money, but they was lining their pocket, and that took the spirit out of me. It didn't stop it, but it took it out of me because you was in it for the money and not in it for the kids. And I seen them cooking their books, and that wasn't right because it made me be like, I don't want to be a part of that. If your heart is not in this and it's sincere in this, then I don't want to be a part of that. You know what I'm saying? And I seen that. I was a witness to that. And that's what made me step away a long time ago. But this time, I'm not doing that. If you're not sincere and your heart is not in it, I want to connect with anybody that's sincere while dealing with mental health. Let's make this work. Let's connect. Let's come together and show these people how to do it, not these politicians that want to just talk about it when it starts touching their neighborhood. It's been going on in our neighborhoods.
Definitely. And I'm here with you. And I'm one of the biggest advocates that's calling out these poverty pimps. I'm holding them accountable. And we reaching them up. And I'm thanking God that I'm building up my team. Yeah. See, they've been lurking in the grass real slow because I've been building up my team, trying to get organized so that I could get organized. And I'm getting to a point where now I could do a little bit more follow-up. I could do a little bit more of the things that I need to do. But we're gonna call them out and we're gonna hold them accountable because I'm putting a community, a team of people. And we're going to hit these streets and we're going to talk to our people because here at both sides of the conversation, our job is we're going to change this narrative. And we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. But we're going to hold people accountable no matter what facet that you're in our community. We're going to hold you accountable if you're not doing right by our people.
Oh, definitely.
We're not going to call them out tonight.
I ain't going to call them out now. But when we get to start networking, I'm going to call them out because I know some of them personally, and they need to be called down and be held accountable.
We're going to get to the individuals because I know a lot of them. And we're
Yeah.
gonna call them out. And they getting nervous because they know I'm coming for them. And
Oh,
as they say, we're gonna bring the receipts. As they say, we're gonna bring the
when they
receipts.
see this movement come together like this, they're gonna be shaking in their boots because it's coming.
Yeah, but it's needed. The time is coming. We have a small margin amount of people in our community, and I definitely think that there's enough that we can do to impact them in a way that we need to a little bit better. And it's gonna take a team of people to work together and get this done.
Yeah.
But the second thing that I wanted to get into, because we'll get to those poverty pimps. That's the conversation that ain't going away here at both sides of the conversation.
Yeah.
But one of the things that you touched on, and I felt that when you talked about losing your son. And I want all of the parents out there, because, we have a lot of teachers, a lot of people, different people who watch our show, come back and follow up. One of the things that you touched on when you said, I failed, I didn't see what he was crying out for. And I want to give you an opportunity to kind of explain to the community some of the things you saw or you didn't take awareness of that you wish you would have, because it might be a family out there. It might be a mother. It might be a grandmother. And maybe something that you're going to say is going to make them pay attention to some of the signs. Maybe the young person is isolating themselves or doing different things. What was some of the things that you feel you didn't see or you missed out on that you should have picked up on?
Well, the first thing I want to tell you that with depression, love comes with depression. A lot of these youngsters being loved for the first time, love causes depression. So my son was mixed up in a little bit. He was in love with this woman, whatever, this girl. She had him. His head was messed up or whatever. It caused him to get depressed even more. Mixed him hand in hand, depression. He had the mental health issue because he was so much in love. The signs I was missing because he was crying out. He was crying out and saying this. He was on his Instagram making dark messages and saying this, and I had him with me. I actually had my son with me before I left, and I told myself, I'm going to fly him back in tomorrow, and he actually was dead, and I missed a sign when I should have took him with me because he was crying out. Crying out is check their social media network. Ask them how they do it today, because sometimes these kids, they really need to know that somebody cares about them. Or they really need to know. My son used to teach me and tell me, like, I used to go to school and I used to cut class just to see if my mama asked me how was school today. And when she didn't do that, I knew she didn't care. So it'd be the littlest thing that your kids pay attention. They watch you on to show that you care. And with my son, I seen these dark messages. I seen these dark things. And I'm just like, you all right? What you want to talk about? No, I'm good. But I missed a sign, but I should have pressed more. I should have been there more. I should have been more into it and talked to him about his emotions and feelings, because he got to that point where it's like nobody cared. Like nobody's caring about me. Nobody's hearing about me. Or he's feeling like, yeah, you hear me, Dad, but you're the dad, but you're going against me. You on her side. It's not about no side thing. It's about right is right and wrong. I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to tell you and we're going to talk about it. But it's not about that, because a lot of times kids want to be heard. They want to be listened to. They don't want you to always feel like you don't even have to have all the answers. Just listen. Sometimes it's good to just listen. You don't even have to tell them on that, because sometimes they're not even looking for that. They just looking for that ear. They want to hear that ear. They want you looking in the face and, you know what, son, I love you. I hear you. I'm gonna dwell on that, what you just told me, and I'm going to talk to you tomorrow about it. They always want a quick answer. They don't always want a quick fix, but they just want to know, like, you know what? My mama care about me. My dad care about me. He really listened to me, because sometimes we don't know how to do that as parents. We always try to be a parent or we try to be friends. But you got to always remember that's still your child. And sometimes they will be defiant against you, and they do things to you on purpose to see if you care. And if you put other things before that, you're going to miss them signs. And I know we got bills to pay. I know we got our own personal relationship. But at the same time, you just got to listen and watch and pay. It's not snooping. I don't snoop at my kids, bitch. I let them know everything. I listen to them, but you're not going to tell me nothing wrong. But you don't tell them that. You listen to them and tell them and understand them and tell them that you do care. Check on them. Like me, I'm a person of my word. When I tell somebody, oh, you going through this? I'm going to call you. I call them. Hey, brother, how you doing? I told you I was going to call you. You might get tired of me, but I told you I was going to do this. Sometimes do that with your kids. You got to tell them, hey, I love you. How you doing today? How was school today? Because they want to hear that. Because a lot of times you think, when I was a little kid, I used to be thinking it was cool for the kids that could stay outside when the lights come on. But I realized they didn't have no parents. Wasn't nobody there. My mom was making me come in the house, making my butt to get to school, and I'm mad at her because I want to be like the cool kids I thought was cool, was really didn't have nobody there because nobody cared about them. So actually, I really had the love, and they didn't. But I'm defiant. So it's like, You got to watch your side and check their social media, man. Check on them every day. Talk to them every day. It take 2 minutes, 2 seconds, even with your loved one that gets sick, man. If they're not taking their medication as a family member, you taking your medication. If I got to take an hour a day to come by your house and make sure you take your medicine, I could do this 24 hours in a day. You only get one grandparent, one grandmama, one this or whatever. If you have to do that, let them know, because the love, it creates a person to give a will, a person for a person to fight. If you don't, it makes a person feel like they get up because nobody cares about me anyway. I might as well just give up. I don't want to take these meds and don't nobody care. But it's the little things that give people the will to keep pushing forward. And that's what we got to do. And that's why I say family support services, because my auntie went through that, having multiple sclerosis. Her mama kicked her out. She went to her sister kicked her out. And my mom took her in until she had to go in there, and she ended up dying. But it goes to the fact that when our family members get sick, we're not there to support them, or we don't want to deal with that because we feel like it's not our problem. But when that, it's just like with the mental health, if somebody feel like they don't have nobody to care, you're making them give up the will to fight. And that's an important thing that you got to do. Love will cure, and support will cure all that. More than this medication they give y'all, more than this medication they prescribe for, because that's all they're going to do is give you some medication and not realizing this music. It's another thing I want to touch on. This music is talking about this perk and this bow and these pills and these Xannies, and you're influencing these kids and making these kids think it's cool to take these drugs that y'all not even taking. So when you got this access to this and you got this, and like my grandmother told me, you don't take nobody pills if your name ain't on that bottle. And you got all these kids doing it, and your local rapper you listen to, he don't even take drugs like that. So it's like, it's little things like that you pay attention to your children, man, because they keep music is music to the soul and influence. And if they listen to this, watch their music, listen to their music. You can kind of tell where their head is at by listening to their songs, their playlists, their music in this. You can tell where they're at. And you can see signs in the music. You can see it. Music is suited to the soul. So you can see it. My son always listens to songs about Percocets and 30s and Xanny bars and Xanny bars. How much influence you think you're going to have on him before you start taking himself or try experimenting with himself? When that's all he's listening to. It's like, hey, a person that listens to gospel, if you go to church, you're going to go, oh, man, I feel like praise the Lord today. Man, I done woke up just listening to this. Hey, this is what I'm going to do. So you have to pay attention to these signs, man. And that's where I messed up at, because I felt like I fumbled, and I felt like his death wasn't the end, it was just the beginning. And I'm pushing forward, and he's not going to lose his life. And I don't want no other family person to go through this pain I'm going through, because I'm still going through it. It's not over. I'm just finding something to will and God to put this spirit or whatever in me to keep pushing. That's making me strong, so nobody else have to go through it. But I'm still stressing. I'm still mourning. But I wake up every day knowing that I got a purpose, and I'm going to push this purpose, and that's going to make me heal by losing a child. I lost my mama, my daddy, my grandmama, and I lost a child. So what more can a man take?
Wow.
But I'm not going to let that break me. I'm a survivor, and I'm going to keep pushing, and I'm not going to let none of them go in vain. I have a purpose now. My purpose is to help my community, get back to my community, and save another family from going through the same issue. If I can say 1, 2, 3, I'm doing my job.
Wow, phenomenal, man. Just want to say I love you, King, because that's what we have to do in our community, especially for our young males. They need to see other men, embrace them and hug them. When I mentor my kids and when I see them, I hug them and I tell them I love you, brother. Because again, we have to show them that it's okay for a man to have emotions and love. Because they're getting raised too tough, right? And we got to also just let them know that it's okay to say I love you. It's okay to embrace another man. And that's one of the things that I live by. When I see my young people, man, the first thing I do is hug and tell them, man, I love you. You know what I mean? And it's very
okay to cry. Don't forget that. These kids live in this box that you got to be macho. It's okay to cry. If you got to let it out, let it out. You can still dry your eyes off and still be that same person that you was before you shedded them tears. Don't let nobody ever think that you're less of a man because you got some emotions you got to get out. I'll boo-hoo like a baby when I go see my therapist, and that get me through the next week. And if I got to boo-hoo the next week, I got to get through the next week, I'm going to do it too. But it's healing it's healing my soul, and it's making me able to go out there to function for another week. So It's okay to all you youngsters out there. It's okay to say you got problems. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to cry. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Wow, phenomenal. I'm gonna get close here because I want to bring everybody up and ask a question. But I think you hit on a lot. You know about this stuff. We go through this in Omega. We always talk about this anger, fear, and pain in our community. We got to deal with the anger, fear, and pain. And I think you hit on it the hardest: consistency. I keep telling our service providers, you have to be consistent. When the community is reaching out to you, you're a community hub, you're executive director. If you in our community, if the community cannot reach out to you, you're not part of the community. They're not going to trust you, and they're not coming to you. We have to do a better job. I'm an executive director. I understand. I can't get to every call. But you have to get somebody from your team to reach out. You have to connect with these people, because as soon as they feel like you're not going out and above for them, man, we lose the community. And it's too much of that happening. And I'm hoping the work that we're going to be doing, helping connect the community. But consistency is everything, especially when it comes to our loved ones and our young people, showing them that they're loved. I think you said that a couple of times, showing them the support, letting them know it's okay. I'm looking out for you. I'm here for you. They need to hear that. The third thing is for our elders in the community. I've been honing on this for months and months. We are going to have to break the gap of our elders and our young people in the community. We're going to have to come together. Because what's happening is our young people feel disconnected from the elders in the community feel disconnected from the young people, and there's a lot of wisdom and information that needs to go both ways. But I'm also in agreement that a lot of our elders in the community, it is time to pass the torch. We have to let some young people step up and lead. This goes across our religion quarters, to our community quarters, to our elected quarters. We got to start stepping down and letting some of these young people take over so we can close that gap.
It's like you said, though, in order for you to pass the torch, you have to mentor the right person. You can't just pass the torch to anybody. So when you pass that torch, you got to make sure it's the right person you passing it to, because if you pass that torch to the wrong people, it's going to be chaos. So as the mentor program, as being an older mentor, you got to mentor somebody still sharp and still. You know what I'm saying? So you got to mentor somebody like how Jack was my mentor. You know what I'm saying? He put a lot into me. I remember when he first gave my first Malcolm X book. I ended up studying Black history all day, but I came to counsel for 5 years. I learned that I took his philosophy and all that to my kids. They resonated with me before I even had a degree. And I was just straight from the street, and they resonated with me. But it's because I felt that, I understand that. But at the end of the day, is you got to know who you passing it to. And a lot of these youngsters, a lot of these old cats is not ready to do that, because they still doing some of the stuff the youngsters are still doing. So you can't do that. It's time.
And I agree with you. Mentorship, pass the torch. But I also understand too, because there is a lot of young people who are ready, and a lot of our elders are stubborn, and they don't want to give up that power, and they don't want to give up that instant gratification, and they're not willing. And they're not willing to give the information to the next generation to step forward. But we got to change that.
What you owe, you know, and if you don't want to do it, you got to get out the way.
Yep. And that's the work. And just proud of you. I know somebody's going to hear what you said, and it's going to empower somebody, because you touched me. And again, this mental health conversation is something that is very important for our community. I understand the violence. I understand what goes on in our community. And I understand the help that is needed. And I know we have this crisis response team dealing with immediate crisis, but we need services for our people in the community that's going to be there throughout the week, all the time, because just waiting for a 311 call is not always the best solution. And I'm hearing complaints about the 311. People are calling 311 for help when they feeling depressed. They're not even getting phone calls back. So we got to find a model that's going to work for sustainability when we're talking about mental health. I'm glad you're here tonight. I'm glad you're going to be here this Sunday to further this conversation about mental health. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring everybody.
I'm going to be that. We're going to have that Black mental health hub in our community for sure. We're gonna have that house they could call home and come through for sure. That's what I'm pushing for. My foundation is gonna create that hub on that building that you could come to with support counselors. You could get your help. And for those homeless people, we're gonna have some room in the back for y'all to get a sleep and get y'all off the street. We're gonna have all that in the community that's available to us, not other places everywhere. We're going to make sure this is just going to be on a foundation. I want that building, that hub that's going to be there in San Francisco for people to come to get the help they need. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking bigger. I ain't just thinking about this and that. And I'm thinking bigger so it can help everybody, because it's nothing like walking somewhere where you can go in there and talk to somebody directly, call on the phone. Me, I don't even like getting on the phone with no automated. So I want to talk to somebody face to face, or I want to hear them verbally. And that goes a long way to me have to push in a button on. If I can't talk to you directly, I don't want to do it. So I want to have it to where you can come in there and talk to somebody. Okay, let me direct you to Felicia. Here's the caseworker over. Let me direct you personally so you can feel that connection when you're dealing with the person that you do, to know that somebody cares about what you're going through. And that's what that's my vision, and that's what I'm gonna take, and that's what I'm gonna make it to, for sure. And I'm gonna support everybody that got anything to do with mental health. I'm about all that, any program, anything. I'm reaching out to everybody. I'm getting my next meeting. I got another Zoom Friday. I'm trying to get to London Breed. I'm trying to get all this help we can get, because this is a serious situation that we got to deal with, and it needs to be addressed. So any pillar of the community from any neighborhood, I'm going to try to commute and network with, so we can get this popping and get this really going and save these community, man. For sure.
That's right. That's right. I love it. I love it. So I brought everybody up because we're about to close out the show. I really want to thank you all for being patient, getting through the show with us. You know, at every show, we try to ask a question, not all the time, but we try to ask a question. But since tonight we're talking about mental health, we have a mental health conversation coming up this Sunday. Just want to get some perspective from everybody before they leave. You know, we had the George Floyd case in, the verdict happened, and in 24 hours we had, you know, another 6 people killed by police. And talking about how do we identify and educate our community. We had a young lady who was shot, you know, having a weapon, and you know, a lot of this conversation been going on all week. Was the officer justified or not? My question to community is, and to you all, is how do we equip our young people to open up and have these conversations, and how do we put them in positions that when they are dealing with law enforcement, when they have a mental health, how as community we help support these young people and let them know how to deal with our law enforcement when they pull up on scenes, and how do we as community help them with these mental health? Because you talked about it. How do we, you know, when people are frustrated, when they're going through, how do we help them if we don't have that immediate crisis there? But how do we start equipping these young people in our schools and the community to really know how to deal with the mental health, the police, and the community when situations arise?
Well, me, I got a little nephew. One of my friends, Mr. C, got killed. His son is a police officer in San Francisco. He does a lot of work in the community. You got to start bringing these officers into the community so people can feel comfortable, not just for a show and meet and greet, to really sit down and hear this voice, because I'm actually scared. I don't want to. I'll be scared. You can tell them to commit and raise your hand, but that's not the reason. You got to stop this racial profiling. You got to stop identifying us just because of our color. It needs more education, and it needs to be funded with these police, because they don't live in this community. They don't understand why these dudes is running around with these guns and all this type of stuff, because people want to make it home to their kids. So if you ain't giving them no education to these police, they're going to automatically always keep judging us just based on our skin colors, what cars we drive, where we at, what time it is, no matter what. But you got to bring them together. We don't need no panel of police to come in here and just sweep us under the rug and tell them we want to hear, get us all. No, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna save the community. That's not gonna change nothing when you turn around and somebody else just get killed 2 hours later. That's not changing nobody. So you got to tell your kids, comply, do what you got to do, know your rights first of all. Know your amendment rights, first of all. Know your rights. If you got license, you got insurance and all this, you do not have to let them search your car. You do not have to open your window. You do not have to do it. Know your rights as a citizen first, and you'll be able to deal with them. And keep your phone on recording. Best thing I tell you. Phone on recording.
I think that's phenomenal that you said it, and I'm definitely going after a lot of the black criminal lawyers to get them on here, because we do got to do a better job with our lawyers coming back to the community, giving back and educating these young people in the community how to deal with the cops, giving them that education. I think that was phenomenal that you touched on that. And again, I see this police reform bill going through the Senate, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm not impressed. You know, to hold police accountable, I just don't see it. I'm reaching out to the city attorney in San Francisco because I want to get him on here and talk about some of these real concerns. And I think our community, we have to be educated a little bit more about these bills and what's in there. But again, to hold police accountable, we're going to need to make sure that they carry insurance. That's number one, because as soon as we make police officers carry insurance, we get a little bit more leverage outside of our community, because the insurance commission can then leverage the police unions. We need to have them carry insurance. If our nurses and our doctors have to carry insurance, if they kill someone, so approach to our police. Secondly, this immunity, we need to wipe that out.
You need to wipe that out.
As soon as an officer is committed of doing misconduct or terminated from a position, we got to take their pension and retirement. You're not going to get change until people are financially impacted. So we got to leverage them that way. And then we got to stop. We got to get rid of the grand jury process.
The leverage, you also got to, if they get fired from one job, you can't let them go work for another city for another job. You got to stop them from doing that too, because a lot of these police get kicked off the San Jose police and they wind up in Oakland or they might wind up in Stockton. So the problem never changed. They just moved to a different city. So you got to stop giving that immunity too. If you get fired for something like this, you cannot be a police officer, period.
Yeah. And that's part of they have some of that in the bill, but I think that the financial impact, because see, these officers do these things and they still get the pension and retirement from taxpayers. We gotta leverage that, and we gotta make these cities. We have to make these cities and these police unions make sure that they have to carry insurance, because that's going to be another way to hold them accountable. That's what I would like to see. And this is why I get frustrated when we go off these politics and we go out these politicians who ain't really advocating for us. It's a way you can nail them, but they not nail them in a way. So I'm not satisfied with the bill. It's a start, but it's more that need to be done and adjusted. I'm going to pass it down to the next sister. Go ahead.
Somebody else.
Denise, Destinee, you want to go?
Amber, Fenicia, Denise.
Destinee, can you hear us? You got to unmute yourself.
Yes, I can hear. Sorry. So I feel like that's a very loaded question, and I wish I had all the answers, and I don't. So I'm gonna just say that. And with me starting off with that, I would say, like, we need to continue these conversations with our young people and with our families, because, and it's connected to like mental health too, because we don't have certain conversations, we're lacking certain educational pieces when it just comes to us as a community and things that we should do when certain events that should not be happening to us happen, right? And so we really need to open that up. And I feel like the first way to get there is to be authentically ourselves and to just be true and open, and to share our feelings, to share that, yes, sometimes I'm scared too. Yes, this happens. Maybe I don't know. We should look this up together. Who can we go to who can inform us on that information? What can we do in that situation? I feel like that's very important, because when certain things happen, a lot of times we might sweep it under the rug because we don't know what to do with it. It's like, oh, okay, it happened to me. It happens to everybody. That happened to my cousin. That happened to my friend. It happens to the people, and it's like, okay, it happened, but and what? What do we do next? And that's starting, and I just think that's also an important piece to continue.
Yeah, I think that's phenomenal. And that's what we're trying to do here at Both Sides of the Conversation with our Educational Thursdays. Every Thursday we have different people from different backgrounds come on and educate the community. And I think Dee talked about it earlier. We gotta implement the proactive approach. Too many times in our community, we reactive after something happened. So we got to do a little bit better of equipping the community with the information. And that's what we're trying to do, intentionally get the information to the community, bridge that educational gap, so that our people have that information, because that's where we losing that, not having that information. So definitely we're going to keep doing our part. We're going to keep doing our part here at Both Sides of the Conversation, keep these conversations going. Sunday, our community conversation, that's where a lot of these conversations that we're having that are difficult, the taboo and the stigma conversations is happening every Sunday. So we're going to keep pushing these along. We would love to have you all participate as well and add to the topics. Go to our website and definitely put in topics, because we want to handle those. And maybe if you have resources with people to help facilitate those conversations. But you're right, we need to have them. So phenomenal question, answer for that. Amber, go ahead, jump in there, Amber.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I think everything you said, knowing our rights, understanding our laws, but I think what's really important is we have these young activists. We need the young people. Our young people do amazing things. People listen to young people. Use your voice. Really, really connect with people, find people who can help you make, for speaking specifically to young people. We've had look at what's happened in San Francisco. Look at our students who have gone out there and started marches and protests. They're beautiful. Use your voice. And then also, very importantly, know your rights. That's and families keep on talking. Communities keep on talking to our students, our young people. That's my plug.
Definitely. Finally, we have our young person on here, our young mentee. This brother right here, powerful. He's been behind the scenes helping me out. We're gonna start having him come on and support us. Phenomenal young man. He's in our Black Firefighter program. He's in the math and engineering honor roll student, doing all kind of stuff. Young Tyler, what's your perspective, man, from what you heard tonight? Just want to hear from you, from a young person. What you thought about what was said, the conversation? What feedback you want to give to the panelists? You got to unmute yourself.
Unmute.
Good?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
All right. Okay. So I enjoyed all y'all's conversations. It's awesome to hear from y'all's perspective. I think one thing that young people should do definitely if like they get pulled over by a cop or something like that, they shouldn't quick to try to fight the cop. You kind of try to keep it chill and mellow and just kind of be peaceful with them. Like, I know, like, as long as you're peaceful, if it was in my position, as long as I'm peaceful with them and they get tense with me, they're automatically in the wrong. I'm nowhere near in the wrong. So just for all the young people watching this, if you ever get pulled over by a cop, don't quick to jump at them or try to fight them. Just stay tense, stay mellow, stay chill with them. And I think the second question was about mental health. Honestly, I agree. I actually agree with all y'all said. Just I think for younger people, just know that there's people there's people everywhere who's there to help. You don't got to keep it in. I admit, when I was years, like 3 or 4 years ago, I used to keep anger, hatred, all that stuff in it. At some point, I did want to take my life. I did want to harm myself, but it only worked. Like, I only became better when I actually started talking to people. So if you're going through stuff, talk to people. Like, you might think no one wants to hear your story or whatever you're going through, but trust me, someone's out there wants to listen to you. Someone want to help you. So just honestly, what I want to say, just talk. Just like, honestly, don't be afraid to open up. Like Duwane said, honestly, you don't gotta feel embarrassed to show emotion or anything like that. We're humans. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to show emotion. We're supposed to, I guess, kind of be, I don't want to say weak, but we're kind of supposed to be weak. So honestly, just don't feel embarrassed. Just talk to somebody at any point. So just do that. And I hope you all are. I hope I really wish nobody would be dealing with these issues, but I know as humans, that's kind of what happens.
Wow, phenomenal community. Y'all hear from the young people. You heard from the elders. We have to do our part. I keep telling the parents, the kids that I mentor, even when your kids playing video game, every opportunity we get around our young people, your child, your grandchild, whoever it is, we need to listen to them. Sometimes you might be able to get that conversation while they playing a video game. You might get the conversation while they cooking. You might get the conversation while they playing basketball. We have to utilize the time that we're around our young people to listen, and that is our time to engage with them, because sometimes that's the only time you're going to get that conversation. But like Duwane said, we got to monitor our young people. Social medias is not to stalk them, but we need to see what's going on, and if there's comments or things that we hear that might be perceived as dark or questionable, don't just sit back and watch. Step in, intervene, and see what's going on, because a little bit of conversation can go a long way. You just heard the young man Tyler, just being able to be open and listen. And a lot of times our adults, we just think we're parents and we don't want to listen, and we think we know it all. We have to listen to our young people, because I know especially our young teenagers, they believe in respect. And, yes, we are adults and yes, we're their parents, but we also have to also give them that respect and listen to them so that they can open up. And I know sometimes as parents, we want to get frustrated and shut down, but we have to stay open so that we can get what we need to make sure that we can get the information to help our young people. Phenomenal stuff. Well, I just want to say thank you all for coming on this Sunday, Duwane. I'm looking forward to having you on this with this panelists. We have some phenomenal guests. I want to thank Amber and Destinee, and I know we lost the other sister and my young guy Tyler. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight and being a part of this show. You guys are definitely hidden gems in our community, leadership that we need that's going to impact our community. And I'm just looking forward to connecting with everybody at some point here in the future. To get us all connected. D, we go connect up.
Oh, yeah, you already know.
Me and Jack already figured out how we go get you up there to the halls with us. So we'll be seeing you shortly. But Amber and Destinee, definitely I'll be working with Michelle, figuring out how here at both sides of the conversation we can help support you guys and what all you are doing. And I think it's just gonna be phenomenal. Don't give up. Keep doing the work. So she got back in here. Hold on, I don't want to end it without giving her something to say at the end. Go ahead, sister. You got back in here, Ty. I was about to close out, but go ahead.
Oh, I was working to get back in, but I really appreciated this conversation. I think where I left off last I heard was a question that you asked about what do we really need to do with all of these things that we are seeing with, the killings of our, Black bodies all over the news, all over everywhere. And I really think for me, it's really education, the education of our young people. Duwane really hit it with, education of their rights, but, education of themselves. I think when we really know ourselves, we know where we come from and understanding the system in which we are in. These systems are designed to do exactly what they are doing. They are not, when people say, oh, we need to fix the system, we need to get rid of the system and we need to create new systems. And I think when young people understand that and where they fall in these systems can better help them understand like how they can navigate these systems in the long run. And then I also think we need education of those who are in the system, right? The brother brought up implicit bias and, over policing of our communities. I think that folks need to understand the contributions that Black and brown folks have made to this country that we call the United States of America. And that until folks really truly understand who we are and what we've given to build this country that we all stand in, I think there will always have these levels of implicit bias, but we need better education of our officers. Officers should not just have high school educations. They really should be social workers. They really should be have deeper understandings of mental health. So when we're talking about redesigning this system, we really need to redesign who these people are who are interfacing with our communities. Should they be people who look like us? Should they be people who have the tools in their toolbox to be able to really support the community in ways? And many of our officers, even the best ones, don't have the tools to really engage with people who are having mental health issues or engage with young people because, as many people love young people, you don't have the necessary tools to work with young people. And so that in itself is a skill set. And so that's what I would provide, is that we need skilled people to do these jobs. And that if we are really talking about moving forward, then we need to redesign the systems in which have been designed to kill Black and brown folks.
Man, powerful. I'm glad you said that. And that's true. And we also going to have a conversation. I'm reaching out to Chief Scott. We're going to have some stuff here for San Francisco Police coming up. But also we need to talk about how do we change the process? Maybe somebody was 18 and made a misdemeanor mistake or some kind of criminal mistake. They've been cleared for 20, 30 years. How do we get these people back so that we can have community policing from people that look like us? I think that conversation needs to happen as well. Because again, we need people from our community that understand us, that lives in the community, grew up in the community, and understand how it functions to definitely work with our policing. And I got to say, my guy Nate Ford over at SF Rebels always say, police officers, especially here in San Francisco, need more than 2 weeks of community engagement. And I think that's a real conversation. They get 2 weeks of training with community and then they pushed out into the community. I think they need to do at least 6 months in the community in plain clothes, go to all our community organizations, meet some of the people on the streets before they actually get in the cars and start patrolling the neighborhood. So I think that's something that they got to look into. How do we make this community part a little bit better so that they understand the people in the community and not just hearing, oh, these people are savages or these people are gangbangers or these people are this, because as soon as they come to community, it's already taught to them to be on this militant mode. And, we have to really, this mental health, we have to really talk with these officers because a lot of these officers come from the military. Some of them were Marines, and the motto and mentality of a Marine versus coming into our community, it looks totally different. And, that's another thing that we need to look at, how we police in the community, because I think we're really militarizing our communities with the weaponry. I mean, you look at the protests, the type of, weapons that they're using with gas and rubber bullets and different things. Like, we just got to come. It's a real look that we got to have. But I'm looking forward to these conversations coming up with some of the police captains and some of the police that we're going to be having coming on, because these are important conversations, and that's community. We have to do our part as well, and not just say forget the police. We got to sit down and have these conversations. We have to be mature to really have conversations. I know a lot of people disagree and say we don't need to talk to them because they don't get it. But again, I believe in communication is the process of starting the healing. And I think communication we have to have. We can't just turn our back and say we don't want to deal with them, because at the end of the day, they are in our communities, and we have to have these difficult conversations. And we will provide them, and we'll have them here on this platform. But we definitely have to be engaged with these conversations, community. So looking forward to that. Well, thank you all for dropping those gems tonight. I am excited. I feel good because all you tonight are the real answers to the problem, and we need our elected officials and we need our legislative process to listen to the people that's doing the work, because you all have the answers. And sometimes people are just trying to get bills across the state floor for reputation and for political gain. But we really need the real answers from the people in the community that's dealing with it. So looking forward to connecting with you all at some point, because we're doing our part to reach out to some of the people that do make these bills and make sure that you all voices are heard, to make sure that these bills will actually impact our community. So just want to say thank you all for that. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and end tonight's segment of our Hidden Gems. This Thursday, we will have another Educational Thursday segment. We have a phenomenal sister coming on. She's going to be teaching financial literacy. You guys know here at Both Sides of the Conversation, we are intentionally trying to make sure our community gets the information that's needed so that we can bridge this wealth gap. We need to go ahead and start learning these tools. And we got a great sister coming on to talk about financial literacy. It will be a phenomenal presentation. Looking forward for that this Thursday. And then this Sunday, we've been talking about it all night. We're going to have another conversation about mental health. We're going to have some of our Latinx clinicians and people coming on. We're going to have D here come on. We're going to have some other professionals come on, as well as community. And we're going to have this conversation, and we're going to continue to try to find out where the shortfalls is, how we can impact the community, how do we get these resources out to the community. A lot of time community don't know about it. Having these conversations will bring out the resources so that community know how to connect so that they can get the help. So I'm looking forward to a phenomenal conversation this Sunday. And then next Tuesday, we'll have another Hidden Gem segment where we'll bring on another host of guests and some Black and brown businesses. So looking forward to that. Thank you all for tuning in. Continue to go to our website, continue to support us. You guys can make donations and get a tax credit. We are definitely a nonprofit 503c, so we can support you in those efforts. Continue to support Both Sides of the Conversation. What we're doing, we'll be out in the community. You guys will see me this Saturday. We'll be at the City Eats event. We'll be feeding the homeless. If you guys are in our group or on any of our social media handles, the flyers are going up this Saturday morning. Be another opportunity for you. If you have it in your heart, you want to get out and help those in need, reach out to us. Go to thecityeats.org. We'll be out there preparing the meals, getting it out to the community. So we're looking for community to come out and help. And there's a number of other events that I'll be at this weekend. But reach out to us. We'll be posting everything on our social media handles. We on all social media handles at both sides of the conversation.org or .com, or at social at Both Sides of the Conversation on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and all of that. So looking forward to seeing you all that's coming out this weekend. It should be a phenomenal feed. What ways of the community? I already see the names piling up. Thank you, community, for sticking together, because this is what solidarity looks like. We can't just come together for certain issues. We have to come together for all issues. And to our disability community, we have great news coming out. I've been reaching out to people. We're going to get some phenomenal resources and people that's going to come on and talk about some of the services that we had a previous conversation about. So looking to bless the people in the disabled community and making sure that they get the service, and they're standing in solidarity with them, making sure they get the things that their needs. And I want to put a couple of events together to support our disabled community as well, because again, I've been getting emails and all I hear is everybody's doing everything for everybody else. There's Mother Day barbecues, there's all these barbecues, and no one's doing anything for the disabled community. So I want to work together with a couple of our community leaders and our disabled community, and we're going to put together an event so that all of our people with disabilities can come out and be celebrated, and we can eat and enjoy each other and be blessed while we out in community together. So with that being said, thank you all. We'll see you on our next show this Thursday. Have a blessed evening. Thank you for tuning in.